this. It was
It had a residual screen, didn't it? There we are. All right. Thank you, Lord.
All right, good evening. Welcome to tonight's Xenia City Council regular meeting. Tonight is Thursday, May 14th. At this time, we are going to call the meeting to order. We're going to have a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Mays. If everyone would please rise. Thank you. Mayor Mays.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Mays. At this time, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace.
Present.
Councilman Scrivens.
Present.
Councilwoman Dean.
Here.
Councilman Branham.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
President Smith.
Here. Thank you very much. For those that are watching, our meeting tonight is closed to the public due to the COVID-19 situation. Our city staff has prepared the chambers so we could properly social distance tonight. First up on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our April 23rd regular meeting. Could I entertain a motion to accept the minutes, please?
So moved.
Have a approval by Vice President Wallace. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Mays. Any questions, additions, or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none as noted. Roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. We have no special presentations tonight, and we do not have any audience comments tonight. Keep in mind that anytime someone would like to contact the city, you can email the city clerk at mjohnson@ci.xenia.oh.us. So I do not have any comments tonight to read. Our next item is old business. First is Ordinance 2020-11, determining to proceed with the improvement of city streets and public ways by the lighting thereof within Street Lighting District Number 4 for years 2021 through 2022, and this was introduced by Councilman Dean on 4/23 of 20.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for passage, please.
Thank you very much. Move for passage. Do we have a second, please?
I'll second.
I think we got Councilman Scrivens for a second. Any comments or questions regarding this second reading? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next up is a public hearing. This is Resolution 2020-L, an introduction, authorizing the submission of applications and the acceptance of funds for the PY 2020 Community Development Block Grant, known as CDBG, allocation program for years 2020, critical infrastructure grant for the CBG East Market Street project. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. In compliance with federal requirements for public participation in the Community Development Block Grant Program, tonight we request Council conduct the second CDBG public hearing, this being the project-specific hearing. Staff is recommending that the program year 2020 CDBG allocation be combined with various other funds as part of an application for critical infrastructure grant funding collectively aimed at rehabilitating infrastructure along the Market Street corridor from North Detroit Street to Collier Street. Failing storm sewer and poor pavement conditions in this area have led to increased safety concerns for the general public. With the presence of the Xenia branch of the Greene County Public Library, the various county offices, county courts, and the city's Justice Center and our municipal court, as well as other interests that are located in that general vicinity, we feel that there's a significant benefit to both our pedestrian and vehicular public that traverse this area on a daily basis. If awarded the critical infrastructure grant, and by combining the city's biannual allocation with other resources, the city could pursue the redesign and replacement of street pavement, as well as storm drainage on East Market Street, again from North Detroit Street to North Collier Street. Among other things, the work would include new storm catch basins, new storm sewer lines, new curb where it's required, ADA sidewalk ramp replacements where it's applicable, and selective widening of the street, in addition to some alterations of the on-street parking with the intent that we'd be able to create some additional parking in that area where it's much needed, and that would be parking for public use. As detailed in the agenda report, the project total is estimated at $562,000, with $385,800 projected to come from the critical infrastructure grant if awarded, which means that we would take the entire $120,000 from our allocation funding for this cycle for the project, and have additional funds from our economic development revolving loan fund totaling $23,000 and an additional $33,200 from the miscellaneous special use or 233 fund that council is familiar with. Staff has coordinated the project concept with the various Greene County officials, including the county administrator, and we've come to some preliminary understanding regarding some additional work that may be piggybacked on behalf of the county. We had a verbal commitment with them. However, the COVID-19 situation has certainly impacted the county's economic outlook as well. So at this point, we're not sure what will be paired with the project, but we have had discussions about some additional work on the courthouse square. So again, it would be a nice enhancement to this, but that isn't necessarily part of this particular application. Staff feels that the project is a good use of CDBG resources, and that we're strongly positioned for the competitive critical infrastructure grant, given the nature of what this is and the broad population that would be served by the project. However, if we would be unsuccessful in that, we would recommend then that the allocation funds for this program cycle be dedicated toward curb and sidewalk replacement, which is what we've done the last couple cycles, and we feel like a good use of the resources. And of course, that can only be done in eligible CDBG tracks, so census tracks that are eligible for community development block grant funding. Staff recommends this evening that council conduct a second public hearing and introduce Resolution 2020L to authorize the applications for the 2020 CDBG funds for the East Market Street project, and which would also then provide for the acceptance of those funds if the city's applications are approved.
Thank you very much. So this is public hearing number 2, what we're doing right now.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I may have just
So
said
at this
number one.
time, I would like to open the public hearing. And normally at this time, audience comments are welcome for those who would like to speak for the project. Seeing we had no emails, either for or against the project. So I am going to close the public hearing and ask if any of my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this.
My only question, Mr. President, is that it says it's an introduction.
Correct.
So are we,
It's the
the
first
motion when we
reading.
get around to it will be an introduction as well as public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so I just want to be clear too. We as a staff have under these limitations on meetings with the COVID situation, we have worked very hard to time legislation so that we didn't have to have public hearings and some of these things that would necessitate an opportunity for public input. The reason we're moving forward with this tonight is because we do have federal and state implemented deadlines that that have not changed in the midst of this, and so we do have to complete these. So again, we've posted these publicly. As the council president indicated, there were no comments that were submitted to us. So all things being even, we would rather have waited and done the public hearing perhaps next month when we can be back to a normal schedule. We just weren't able to do that right now.
Thank you very much. Do I have anyone who would like to make the introduction?
I would so introduce.
Thank you. Introduced by Vice President Wallace. Thank you. Our next item is new business, Ordinance 2020-12, and listed as an emergency. This is amending Ordinance 2020-09 to provide appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Xenia, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, declaring an emergency. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. Both of the items this evening that we're asking Council appropriate additional dollars for are grant-related. The first is related to the probation department and a grant they were awarded. You may recall that council approved an appropriation ordinance just a few meetings ago for a new grant that they were awarded. That grant grant amount has actually been increased. And so we're back again this evening requesting another $7,750 so that they can utilize those additional grant dollars that they've been given as a part of this technology grant. The second one is related to audit fees. If the city has grant revenue, federal grant revenue that exceeds $750,000 in a given year, we have to go through what's called a single audit. And we did exceed that threshold in 2019, and so we're required to go through some additional audits, and that requires additional hours to be spent by our independent public accountant, so they obviously want to bill us for that work that they're doing. The Government Accounting Standards Board has also implemented some new accounting standards since we signed the contract with the IPA several years ago related to post-employment benefits, which we call OPEB. So there's some additional auditing that they're going to have to do as a part of those post-employment benefits as well, that again is going to necessitate additional hours as a part of the contract. So we're requesting tonight the council approve another $5,257 spread across various funds as we always do with our audit fees. And we're requesting you approve that tonight so that our auditors can proceed with the required additional auditing procedures. And we're requesting that as an emergency this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Finance Director. So before us is Ordinance 2020-12, an emergency. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Scrivens. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mayor Mays. Any comments or questions regarding this emergency?
How much did we have on hand to kick this all off?
I'd have to look back at the contract. I think the original contract's around $30,000, something like that. I can get you
No
the
problem.
specific figures.
But
I
it
don't have them.
was, there was a threshold amount, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so there was a specific amount that it's based on an hourly rate. So they give you an hourly rate. This is the rate per hour, and they have a specific number of hours they think it's going to take them to do the audit. But obviously, when they quote the audit, they're basing that on the rules and the procedures that are in place at the time. And so as additional standards are implemented, it requires additional hours. So this isn't abnormal for them to come back and ask for an adjustment when there's some additional standards that are put into place.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next is Resolution 2020-I, also listed as an emergency. This is authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with U.S. Bank for the purpose of financing new meter reading system and the replacement of water meters citywide and declaring an emergency. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. Council, I'm sure, recalls that at the last meeting, we requested an approval of a contract with Neptune Equipment Company for replacement of all of our water meters. We have deemed it necessary to issue debt to cover the cost of that expenditure. The total of that project is just over $4 million. We're requesting $4 million in debt be issued. That's $2 million in both the water and sewer funds. As we typically do, we solicit bids from a whole variety of both local banks and banks throughout the state and country. We only got 2 bids back this time, one from U.S. Bank, one from Public Sector Capital. I'm pleased to report that the quote that we got back from U.S. Bank was a very good one, a rate of 2.106. I think just about anybody would love to borrow at that rate. The city has a really nice and good credit rating and a great history of paying our debts, and so we've been able to acquire a good rate there. We would request that council approve us to proceed with issuing debt for this purpose. It's a capital lease, and we're requesting that it be done as an emergency so that we can get those proceeds in as quickly as possible so that we have the dollars available to proceed with the project. So we're requesting that tonight as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Finance Director. Do we have a motion to accept this resolution as an emergency?
So move.
I'm sorry, who was that? Vice President Wallace? Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilman Dean. Any comments or questions regarding this resolution?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Finance Director, am I correct to assume that every meter in the city will be replaced?
Correct, yeah. Every meter, and the hope is that the vast majority of that is completed by the end of August.
This
But every this year, yep. The
Nice.
very aggressive timeline. Most of the meters will be replaced with a compound meter, pretty similar to what they have today. They'll have much greater capacity as far as what they're communicating back to our system. So residents will have more real-time data on how much water they're using, notification of leaks, that kind of thing. So the communication equipment installed on the meters is much improved. And then on our larger meters, 1 inch and above, we're installing ultrasonic meters that are a much more reliable and accurate reading, especially when you've got a lot of water moving through a meter. So we think that that's actually going to enhance our revenue, especially over time, because those mechanical compound meters tend to slow down over time, whereas the ultrasonic typically are fairly reliable for their entire life,
Now,
which is
will-
about 15 to 20 years.
Now, will we need actual physical people going around to?
Yes, so the Neptune Equipment Company is doing the installs, and they would be going from meter pit to meter pit doing the installs. For the variety of our customers, there's a meter pit outside,
Right.
and so that's a pretty easy.
Right, you look for the vent stack and follow it out, right?
Right. It won't be difficult for them to change those out. Some of the inside meters are going to be challenging
Right, I'm
with
sure.
what we're going through right now with obviously the impact of COVID. And so we're working with the vendor trying to come up with some creative ways that we can structure this because they're a little concerned, in signing off on a timeline saying we'll have all of these things swapped out within a given timeline when they're not so sure that people are going to allow them into their house. So we'll continue to monitor what the governor's obviously ordering at the state level, and then obviously what our customers are comfortable with. And so we're going to work with the customers, make sure that they're comfortable with having people in their homes. But over time, eventually we'll get all these swapped out. But the inside ones are probably going to take a longer period of time than what they typically would have in the past.
I'm sure. One final thing now. Do they feed information back to a system and?
Yeah, so there are receivers that'll be pulling data. We can pull data really as frequently as every 15 minutes if we'd like to.
Interesting.
And then that'll communicate back to our main
Okay.
servers and systems. So we'll be able to tell in real time, as we've discussed before. Right now, if you've got a leak, you won't know that until a guy drives by your house in a vehicle
Right.
pulling the reading off of the meter. And ultimately, we send out a bill that says, hey, you've got a potential
and
leak.
then you have sticker shock.
In this new system, it's a fixed-base system. There's no drive-by required. We can pull data off there as much as every 15 minutes. We probably won't do it that frequently because it drains the battery the more reads
Right,
that you
of
do. But probably at a minimum every
the
hour.
capacity is there,
And so if
right.
you've got some continuous usage
Right.
over a period of time, you're going to know within hours rather than within days or months.
Very
So
good.
it'll be a quick turnaround that we can communicate potential issues in people's systems. So.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next is Resolution 2020-J, also listed as an emergency. This is approving the preliminary consent legislation with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the Type A Anchor Assembly Guardrail Project and declaring an emergency. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Staff is recommending council introduce and adopt preliminary legislation which would authorize the Ohio Department of Transportation to replace select sections of guardrail within the city's corporate limits. The guardrail replacement project would focus on sections of US 42 here in our community. The project will be administered by the Department of Transportation. There will be no city funds that will be encumbered as part of this work. ODOT has requested the standard authorization legislation be adopted as quickly as possible by our legislative body so that their aggressive timeline for design and administration schedule for the project can be maintained as a result. Staff is presenting and requesting that the resolution this evening be adopted as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2020J as an emergency?
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Branham. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Scrivens. Any other questions or comments regarding this project?
42 from Tremont Road to East Church Street, or 42 from
We actually don't know.
Cincinnati Avenue to-
When we were contacted, the city engineer reached out, and they were not
So when
either
they
able or
said
willing to
select,
give us.
then he'll be
Yeah,
doing the
it'll be
selecting.
yeah, it'll be a roadway associated with 42. We just don't know
Okay.
specifically where.
Well, there are no guardrails from Tremont back to Church Street.
Yeah.
But,
I'm assuming it's
but
there.
from Tremont on out toward Wilberforce.
If I was a betting man, I'd say toward the south end of town, but we'll see. You'll know when I know.
Right.
4235 out there. I know the
Yeah.
city owns a petition of, well, a little slight petition of grass out there that we
Yeah.
used to maintain, and some of the on-ramp for 35. So I would assume,
Most all of the guardrail that you would have associated with 42 in the city would be out there.
yep.
Do we know when this project's starting?
I don't have a specific start date. They haven't notified us, but it'll be here in the summer months.
All right, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next is ordinance 2020-13, an introduction. This is enacting sections 26.04 titled Holidays of the City's Administrative Code as contained in Part 2 of the codified ordinances of the City of Xenia. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. From earlier this year, council will recall discussions with the appointed officials concerning scheduling inconsistencies between the municipal court, law director, and our other administrative offices with respect to holidays. This problem is longstanding and annually creates issues for us for our schedules. Staff was instructed to evaluate the situation and return to council with recommendations on how we might rectify this matter. This evening, we are recommending council take into consideration an ordinance to set a formal holiday schedule for the city in code and make adjustments to the number and type of holiday dates recognized to standardize the court and city schedules while also ensuring that the city is competitive with other governmental employers regarding this benefit generally. The agenda report details the changes and how this compares to our comparables. Staff recommends introduction of the ordinance this evening, and we can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much.
I only have one question, and that is that this was done in cooperation and collaboration with the municipal court to.
Yeah, so I don't think we've actually brought it to the
No,
floor
we
yet, but I'll
didn't.
be happy to answer that if.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Do I
I
have
guess you need a
anyone?
motion.
Yeah, I have a motion. Who would like to make the motion to introduce this?
I'll make the motion
Okay,
since I
thank
got
you.
that
All
question.
right. Introduced by Vice President Wallace, and then your comments, please.
Well, I don't have a second yet.
It's an introduction.
It's okay, just an introduction, okay. That was my question, but I saw the law director nodding her
Yeah.
head, and I heard you say yes, so my
And
question got answered.
any of us can answer this, but we did convene the Administrative Steering Committee, which of course includes the clerk of our municipal court, and Steve, Danette, Ryan, myself, with some other staff, had a lengthy discussion on how to approach this. And I want to emphasize that there were really two factors that played into this. The first factor was how do we standardize the schedules, noting that the judge, as a separately elected individual, has the discretion to establish his own calendar. And what Judge Lewis has enacted is consistent with what the last couple of judges have been doing. So it's not something new, but they recognized additional holiday dates above and beyond what our official calendar did. So what we came to in recognition of trying to have a more unified schedule was the fact that the judge still retains the right to change his calendar, but under this scenario, because this would be enacted in code, that it's easier for us to track from a timekeeping standpoint, that the court would have this in the code for these particular dates. Additionally, the second thing we were focused on is in looking at comparables. So typically in the HR world, in municipal HR, when we look at holidays, we also look at personal days, because in a lot of union contracts where it's not necessarily most advantageous to have holiday dates, you also give personal time. So we looked at and compared both personal time and holiday time for all of our comparables. And as that chart indicates, we're actually below average in the region, both of those categories. And so we felt, in lieu of the personal time, adding the holiday dates was appropriate. Now, granted, this should have fairly minimal impact to the public, because we're already closed on President's Day now. We just typically use that for an in-service day. And historically, over the last 10 years or more, council has granted time off, usually Christmas Eve, sometimes New Year's Eve, so there's fairly minimal impact there as well. And we added that flex time because you have these unique situations. For example, if Christmas Day falls on a Tuesday and you have Tuesday off, if we were giving employees then half a day off on Monday, we'd be having them come in from a weekend for half a day to have another day and a half off. So that allows us as appointing authorities to then be able to say, okay, we're going to use some of that flex time for that half a day, and just, not have that inconvenience of just being open for that
Close
period.
Monday and Tuesday.
Right, just to make operations a little more smooth. So the addition of 3 days makes us more competitive with pretty much all of our peers. It addresses this scheduling consistency issue with the court, which I think probably benefits the law department as much as anyone. And I want to stress this would only be applicable at this point for our non-union administrative staff. So this doesn't apply to in-department units.
Thank you very much. Our next item is Ordinance 2020-14, also an introduction. This is accepting the dedication of 0.0063 acre tract, this big, of public street right-of-way on Stelton Road. What is that, like about the,
This is an alley,
the sidewalk or
This is an
something?
alley.
Or
It's
that's
a
an
little-
alley?
That runs parallel behind Stelton Road, is that right?
Yeah, so in the way of introduction, and as you see in the agenda reports, the owner of 4 lots there at 123 Stelton Road wishes to replat these lots and consolidate them into a single lot. 3 of the lots are located within the platted subdivision, which was known as the Sauls subdivision. And the remaining lot is a 12-foot wide unplatted parcel with its front line located at the center line of Stelton Road. And so that's what we're talking about, in particular, that roadway, segment of roadway. In order to legally consolidate the lots, the 12-foot wide section of the unplatted right-of-way in Stelton Road must be dedicated by plat as roadway. So you have to make it official that it was a roadway. And you will see around, for example, if you look at the county auditor's website, you'll see a lot of locations around the city where property lines go to center lines, even though there's a roadway that's been there for many, many decades. It's just historic carryover that these weren't dedicated. Fortunately or unfortunately, Ohio statute prescribes that a series of steps that are necessary for creating public streets, which in this sense, if you're dedicating this roadway, it becomes a public street. So we do have to follow those procedures. The replat shown in Exhibit A of your handouts of the ordinance presented accomplishes the first step of the statutory procedure, and upon City Council acceptance of the right-of-way dedication, the ordinance will be recorded, which is another step, and the sliver of Stelton Road will then formally be dedicated and accept the ordinance. So this is a lot of work, but it's necessary to be compliant by statute with what needs to be done in order for this resident to be able to replat this. So again, it's a fairly simple request by the resident. We feel like it's appropriate to accommodate it, even though it's a little more work for us. So we recommend introduction of the ordinance.
Thank you. Do I have an introduction, please?
I'll introduce that.
Introduced by Councilman Dean. Thank you very much. Next is Resolution 2020-K, also an introduction. This is authorizing the sale of city-owned property located at Sierra Trail, known as Beverly Hills Park, to Judith Lewis, Shirley Stepp, David and Cheryl Maxon, Bobby and Donna Murphy, Jack Poe, Thomas and Ricky Evers, and Rebecca and Robert Schillick. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those and you're watching tonight. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Staff is recommending introduction and ultimately consideration of this resolution to sell a small portion of unused land that is currently part of the Beverly Hills Park to some of the adjacent property owners as listed in the introduction. Our staff was contacted by several resident homeowners along Harris Lane who are interested in the property. Staff entertained the feasibility of this and finds it to be in the best interest of the city to divest of the property, put it back into private ownership. Similarly, council last fall authorized sale of a portion of the Beverly Hills Parkland to 2 residents on El Camino Drive, and that was via Resolution 2019 AA. The sale and disposal of the remainder of this excess property will relieve the city of the ongoing maintenance at the site, including the mowing, the liability cost of this parkland, which really has historically not been used as part of the park. If you're familiar with the area, it's a small portion of land that juts out from the park. It's just impractical for use with the park. So we feel that putting the property into the private hands of the residents there will bring more value to their property and reduce the city's cost of land that frankly is unused for recreation. So we have explored the practicality of the sales, evaluated the portion of the property that homeowners are interested in. Again, minimal value to the city, and we think it enhances the adjoining property owner's value. So we are recommending the sale of the property to the various homeowners as identified in the agenda report. We recommend introduction of the resolution this evening.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce that.
Introduced by Mayor Mays. Thank you very much. Our next item is an administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with J&A Construction Incorporated to crack seal city streets through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program. Mr. City Manager, would you like to fill us in on that?
Thank you, sir. As previously discussed with council, enhanced maintenance of viable roadway in our community to extend its life has been identified as a capital priority. The most cost-effective approach to such maintenance is crack sealing. Crack sealing is where we seek to limit the water infiltration that can get into the roadway crack surfaces with freeze-thaw cycle. When that water infiltrates and we get the freeze-thaw cycle expansion and contraction, breaks the roadway apart and lends to the rapid deterioration of the roadway surface. And following through on this maintenance priority of crack sealing, staff is recommending council authorize the execution of a contract for crack sealing city streets for 2020 as indicated to J&A Construction Incorporated at a not to exceed amount of $100,000. And this is done through the Ohio Department of Transportation's Cooperative Purchasing Program. We have included in the agenda report a preliminary list of roads slated for crack sealing. Wanted to point out that given that crack sealing pricing is based upon the cost per pound applied, it's difficult to be certain of exactly how far that will take us. So we've set in the agenda report an estimation of what we think will definitely get done and then additional streets that we will do if we have the remaining resources to carry us that far. So we think we'll get that first section done, and if so, we'll get as much of that second list as well. But we would request authorization to execute the contract for this year's crack sealing program.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to authorize the agreement?
So moved.
Okay. Have a motion by Councilman Scrivens and a second, please. Second by Vice President Wallace. Any questions or comments regarding crack sealing project?
Council President,
Yes, sir.
my only recommendation to city staff is potentially going out to those roadways and prepping them before the crack sealing. Any big major issues that we could potentially saw cut out and have only a square to crack seal around versus big, huge spiders of cracks and that sort of thing. Any prep work that the city of Xenia can do beforehand that will only help the longevity of those roadways would be great.
Duly noted.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
For those of you who are watching and you not see your name on this list, your street name, is because your street is in worse shape than these. These are the ones we're saving before they fail. And that's why we're crack sealing them. We're trying to at least save the ones that are still good. The ones that are bad, you know who you are: Country Club, Mount Vernon, East 2nd, East 3rd, all of you guys who have called me. I hear you, but we're trying to do what we can do, so just bear with us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no other comments. Can I get a roll call, please?
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is also administrative motion, which is approving the schedule of bills in the amount of $801,079.55. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, President Smith. I'd just note that there are several big expenditures on this schedule of bills, a couple for some debt service payments. Part of it is for some work that's being done out at Innovation Way and that new roadway. And then also a payment for our liability insurance that council approved, again, a few meetings ago, which is a pretty substantial amount to cover us for the coming year. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the bills?
We need to pay them.
Motion? Is that your motion?
I'll second the mayor's motion.
All right, I'll
All
move
right.
it. Been
Mayor-
pressured into
All
motion.
right. We have a motion by the mayor with a second by Vice President Wallace. Any other questions concerning the bills tonight? All right, motion, I'm sorry, roll call, please.
Please, amend
Vice President Wallace.
that. Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is appointed official reports and council comments. We'll go first to our city manager.
Thank you, sir. Just three items this evening, two of which I spoke to a little bit earlier today. The Public Relations Coordinator and I put together a video update on some COVID-19 related issues that have emerged that we wanted to be clear about, and I just thought I would reiterate those this evening. The first is in regards to the fireworks festival. So because of some of the state's mandated restrictions and so forth, whether you like it or not, as a local jurisdiction, we are subject to those orders, and so we have had to cancel a number of events in May and June in order to be compliant. However, moving forward, looking at what is the city's largest event every year, our fireworks festival, I think it's just premature for us to make a decision in early May about something that's a month and a half, 2 months away. And given the fact that so much else has been taken away from our community and canceled in our community, I just think we ought to be very, very cautious about making a big decision to cancel this event. I can tell you that from the staff's perspective, we will try whatever we can do to be able to have an event this year. And if we're going to do it, it needs to be a good event and done right. But at this point, we see no reason to cancel this event, so I can't guarantee that it will go on because we are still subject to limitations from the state. But we will wait till the last possible minute to make a decision, particularly if we feel that we would need to cancel or postpone this event, because we think it's important to the quality of life in our community. It's something that our entire community looks forward to. We have such gracious volunteers and funders of this event, and we just we want to try everything we can do to make sure that we have it. So just want to let folks know that at this point in time, that event is still on the calendar, and we will keep the council and the public updated as we have discussions with our event partners about what to do with that. But at this point in time, we think we should try to have it. So we'll come back to that issue next month and revisit it. Second, again, related to the COVID-19 situation, I think many of us here in the city organization as well as in the community are very excited to see businesses being allowed to reopen. Some would say maybe a little past due, but we're excited to see this happening. And we also recognize it's with a lot of conditions, a lot of strings attached. And so I just wanted to let the council know and the public know that we're doing whatever we can from the city's perspective to make reopening of a lot of our businesses as easy as possible. We have relaxed some of the sign regulations that we have, allowing some temporary signs so the businesses can be clear about procedures in terms of picking up food or whatever it might be. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can be there. We're working with, in particular, the local eating establishments to provide opportunities for tents to be brought on site, temporary tents, and we'll expedite the permitting process for that, again, to increase the capacity that these businesses have to allow them to be able to accommodate more customers as quickly as possible. Now, noting there still are issues with the health department or county building department on some of these things that hoops and barrels that these business owners may have to go through. But from our perspective, we're trying to take an approach. We want to support these businesses as much as we can and just relax some of these things temporarily so that these businesses can get back up and running as quickly as possible. So we'll continue to do that through this period as these restrictions are lifted, then we'll bring these things back online. But for the time being, we think this is a very reasonable approach. Finally, I just wanted to touch on, today the governor issued a new set of reopening timelines and guidelines. And there are a number of city amenities or services that are affected by this. We have not had the time yet, given the late release of the information today, to really vet all of that and to make determinations about what we will do. But things such as splash pad, frisbee golf, restrooms and parks, these are things that the governor has established timelines for reopening later this month and into June. And so with that, there are some regulations or guidelines on how you should handle that and cleaning and so forth. So we do need to evaluate that, determine when we can bring these things online. But we're very, very anxious to bring things online as quickly as we can, make them available to the public. So as we figure out what that plan is, we'll announce that to the council and the public. But again, our goal is to get these things online as quickly as possible. And that is all I have this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. We did open a city facility here to the public this week, and so far I'm pleased to report that while we've had customers, we haven't been overrun with customers, and so it's been a steady pace, but very manageable. And so if there are customers out there who would like for us to prepare tax returns, if you want to come in and pay your utility bill, we are open now, so that is an option. Just please don't all come at once. We're doing what we can to make sure that people are properly distanced when they're in line and those types of things. But we are open to the public, and yeah, first week has gone very well so far. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Finance Director.
Mr. President, can I hate to interrupt, and I don't want to step on the law director's toes, but there's one other point that I really want to mention, because I had mentioned it to council in an email earlier this week, and I'm able to kind of announce it tonight. I suggested the other day that we were trying to work with some local parents in the school district to provide for a parade opportunity for Xenia's graduating seniors this year. And I'm pleased to report that I had a discussion at length today with the superintendent. The school district is on board with this. And so we'll be working in the next couple of days to put out publicly information identifying the date, the time, what to do for this event. And we're just really excited that we can be able to honor Xenia's graduating seniors, given that they cannot have an in-person formal graduation ceremony. I just want to stress this is very minimal cost to us. We're able to do it very, very easily, cost effectively, but we think it's a good opportunity to recognize these seniors. So we'll be putting more information about that event out in the next couple of days. So I just want to follow up and let you know that looks like it's going to be green lighted.
Do you want to announce that date yet?
Yeah, May 29th. I think the time is 6 p.m. And so students will be congregating and lining up at the high school. They'll leave from high school and they'll travel down Kinsey, taking a left to go southbound onto Detroit Street. We'll take them through downtown to Main. They'll take a right on Main Street and then by Town Square and then disperse at Church Street. We will have officers at all of the main intersections. We will be posting on our electronic traffic boards in advance to remind people that this is coming. On our social media website as well as school, we'll be letting folks know so that we can minimize the inconvenience to the public, because we want folks to be supportive of this and not surprised by it. But again, May 29th at 6 p.m. is the date and time.
Thank you very much. All right, Madam Law Director.
Thank you. No, sir.
There we go.
Unmute yourself.
Keith, can you unmute?
Keith,
Try again tonight.
just barely.
Not well.
All
All right, hang on one second.
The lady from.
Is there anything you can do?
I'm sorry, sir.
Keith is trying to attenuate your signal. You're coming across garbled.
Yeah, Jerry and I are Zooming, and we're both having a little trouble with that.
Like an echo chamber.
Have you landed to Earth yet? Yeah, you sound like an alien. We can't quite hear you yet. But
Ground control to the law church.
Over at the law department, if the prosecutor gets sick, I need to be well enough that I can go and cover for him. We're trying to rotate out the advocates if one of them gets sick, and then I've still got some more on backup. So we're still trying to be very careful, just make sure we have some redundancy built into how we're doing it. That if somebody gets sick, there are none of us left to be able to step in and
has no clothes and nobody's telling them.
I couldn't,
Okay.
you can repeat what they
Basically,
said.
they are working to have it done at Operation Home Base, set up the prosecutor.
Right.
Certificates as well. For the general public to know that the court has to remain open. They have to, your constitutional rights demand that you have due process and fair and speedy trial. So they've had some unique circumstances to deal with over in the court, providing public access in the midst of all of this. So I think I got most of it, Danette,
All right, thank you, Madam
even if
Law
she didn't hear
Director.
me.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we'll be talking to her later. All right, next is, Mayor, I'm going to wait and put you next to last. We'll go down the line here.
You did that.
Nah, I'm just mixing it up a little bit.
I'll hang.
Let's go with Councilwoman Dean.
The one thing I have to add is I'm really excited that everything's gonna be opening back up. I think it's past
Especially
due,
the gym.
so anyways, that's all.
Thank you very
Also,
much.
keep washing your hands regardless of this whole COVID
Say
situation,
stay clean.
especially after the bathroom.
Right away.
I see that all the time.
Yeah, right away. I was health inspector.
Not that I hang out in bathrooms all the
All
time. Not like that.
I
Wasn't gonna
concur
ask.
with you on that. All right, next, Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As you probably have seen, we have a few new installations, businesses that will be opening up here soon. Got Casey's here on North Detroit, and I understand the Dollar General here on East Main at North Columbus is already open. And then we have Aldi's is going to be open there off of Hospitality there, have a new street cut in for them. So I'm excited that we have new things in Xenia. So we need to get out and support them as much as we can. I'm excited about the parade for the high school seniors. They worked for 12 years and didn't even get to dance it off. So I'm all for that, and I have to compliment Councilman Branna for having that put forward. That was a great idea, sir. And just can't wait to have our seniors, not only at Xenia High School, but Legacy, have them celebrated for their accomplishments. And other than that, I see we're getting close to the opening of the roundabout. You guys have received an email from me, and didn't get too much feedback from our sitting council people, but I didn't get anybody who didn't like the idea. So when we get to that juncture, you know, we'd like to see what we can do about moving that forward. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. Next up, Councilman Branham.
Yeah, I just want to say it's a great thing with the seniors that we're participating in that. I hope that the local fire trucks and stuff can participate in that as well. The bigger the noise, the better it's going to be for those kids. Also, I fully support the fireworks. I think it's time that we kind of get back to some normal life. I hope that we can stand out and the city of Xenia can shine a little bit with that. Everybody else is canceling theirs. We're still holding strong.
Right.
I think that's a great thing. Also, I've heard and seen a lot of skepticism of the roundabout. If it's any way possible, I think it would be good to have our PR person provide a video of the very first semi go through there by a person that has their CDLs that works for the city, just to say, hey, it's possible, we can make it through the roundabout, and our city employees done it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Branham. Councilman Dean.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I'm pretty sure somebody already made it through the roundabout. There's not. Yeah, video of that?
Maybe not successfully.
It wasn't a semi.
Oh, okay.
But somebody did make it.
That was literally making it through the
They made it all the way through, though, right?
Oh, Lord.
No, I just like to echo what everyone else said, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of missed meeting in here with you guys, so thank you for that.
Love. It's a love thing.
You're some more sentimental than your sister. No.
Thank you, Councilman Dean. I appreciate that. Vice President Wallace.
I really have very little to say tonight. Somehow I missed the email that you sent out, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. And I tried to call you about a conversation that I had with the city manager about the roundabout and the naming thereof and so forth. So apparently you and I need to talk and catch up. But we'll do that after we'll share with the rest of council after we hook up. But I too want to congratulate the seniors. I'm glad, and I didn't know it was Cody or the city manager. I didn't know who was responsible for the senior parade, but
Whoever hatched the idea.
whoever is responsible for it. Thank you. In fact, when I saw the city manager's email, I said, if you need any support, count me in. So because I certainly think it's totally appropriate that we honor the seniors in any way that we can honor them, given the limitations of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I want to make sure that we give accolades to them and honor them in every way that we can, because show them that we appreciate them and appreciate their accomplishment and wish them well as they commence to the next segment and phase of their lives. But I'm glad that the governor's been, I've been watching with interest all of the things that the newscasts and so forth. But I want to compliment Governor DeWine and the awesome job that he's done in keeping Ohio informed and just keeping us up to speed on what is going on. And I'm thankful that we have him in place, because it's been quite helpful. But I don't have anything else at this time.
Thank you, Vice President Wallace. Mayor Mays.
Thank you, sir. Earlier today, there was an email apparently sent out, not by me, and so after speaking with our IT person, we both agreed it would be wise for me to say something tonight, that if you receive an email from me asking for money or a gift card, that it is not from me, and please do not respond to it. In conversation with Keith Paget, he said that the phishing emails are just off the charts
Rampant.
right now. They're very rampant. People are home, not using their time well, so please be mindful of emails that you get requesting money from anyone, really. And then again, like we've all said, as things are opening back up, I hope that as much as you're able to support our local businesses and our local restaurants, and everyone needs to make decisions on what that looks like for them and how they do that supporting, but there's a lot of creative ways that we can be supporting our local businesses, so I hope that you're doing that. And then, of course, congratulations, Legacy Christian, Xenia High School, our Career Center kids, and then we have kids that are in homeschool. I know several graduations for our homeschool friends that were canceled as well. So just wanted to congratulate our seniors and say that you've done an awesome job, and we are here to support you. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I'll finish out tonight by thanking all my colleagues for being here tonight in person. It's been about 3 meetings since we've been together, so I appreciate everyone venturing out. For those that are watching tonight, I thank you for your support. Thank you for support of the city. I would like to thank our city staff, as always, for the job that you've done through this crisis, as well as our appointed officials. The coronavirus has really ever changed the way we've done business, and probably for here on out. And not just our community, but the nation and the world. And so I know it's easy to get on social media and be pissed, and people are angry at our leadership and our president and our Congress, but to, lend them support and a prayer rather than criticism. So it's tough making decisions. Sometimes they always don't work out like we want, but they usually are in the best interest of people. My sincere condolences to the senior class of 2020, not just at Xenia, but various high schools. Those parents have really pushed those kids academically for 12 years, and to not really have a recognition ceremony is disheartening. So I can understand the frustration that they're having, and so hopefully this parade will give the kids a little bit of excitement and something to look forward to. And I too am glad that we're slowly getting things open and we can start to resume our life as we know it. But we have to be also very conscious of our actions. And if you're scared to go out, then don't go out. Stay home. If you're elderly and you need help, then reach out to those that need that can help you. And if you're comfortable to go out, then please do support local as much as you can. And if a business does require a mask, then that's their prerogative. So please try to comply. I'm glad and very pleased our community for the efforts that they've done so far. We've not had any civil unrest in our community, so I want to thank our citizens for that. And so next is an executive session that will be closed. So at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait a minute. So we'll do the adjournment after our executive session. I'm sorry. We don't do executive sessions very much anymore. So we need a motion to move into executive session. And this is regarding the purchase or sale of property per City Codified Ordinance 206.04 and Ordinance 121-22, and also regarding collective bargaining matters for our City Codified Ordinance 20604 and ORC 121.22. Do I have a motion for executive session?
So moved.
So moved by the mayor. Do we have a second for the?
I'll second that.
A second by Vice President Wallace.
Get the steer going.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So for those that are watching, we do not foresee us coming back doing any official business, so we will go ahead and close the telecast at this time. Thank you very much.
Good night, Xenia.
Good night.